Well, welcome to the webinar here. I'm Philip Montrose for the Lifetime Value of Spiritual Holistic Coaching and Healing with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane Montrose.
Hi, everybody.
We have been in the holistic spiritual field, Jane and myself, for 3 decades plus. We're the directors, founders of Awakenings Institute. Devoted to making the world a more loving place where everyone's gifts are honored. And we've been pursuing and developing spiritual coaching and healing, publishing many works on the subject, helping people individually in groups and trainings. And you're really in the right place today. And I know some people are live, some people are watching on replay. If you do want a deeper, more meaningful life, if you do want perhaps a new career, a part-time or full-time career, maybe a home-based opportunity, maybe you're looking for more effective, powerful tools, holistic spiritual coaching, healing tools, and could enhance your current occupation or just with people in your life or people you're helping. And you may also be looking for a holistic, spiritual, in-depth program, learn tools, and to accelerate your evolution. And we'll just a few people are coming in. We'll mute. Hey, hi V. And the idea is we have challenges in our life, and coaching and healing is one of the best ways you can address them. And I know all people who are listening to this are very attuned in it and interested and have a certain level of natural talent that they want to use and develop in this area. And we take what's called a holistic approach to healing and coaching. And that's a spiritual approach too. And that's rather rare if you actually look what's going on out there, as many things that are as are going on, as many things that are offered. There isn't a lot of soul-based, in-depth healings and training where you can learn that for yourself and to help others. And that's what we want to share today. And we will tell you how to go further too if you want to get training and certification as well. But I think you're going to get a lot of insights and tips and tools from this webinar alone. And we first want to start out with the value of a holistic approach, and then we're going to go into 5 core challenges that we're all facing and how spiritual coaching and healing can be an incredible resource for you going forward. Jane, shall we talk about how a holistic approach is the way to go?
Okay. And when we're talking about a holistic approach, we're talking about something that's different from what many people consider a holistic approach, which might be like having a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle. As Philip mentioned, and he kept saying spiritual kind of holistic approach. What we are doing is building on a strong spiritual foundation, looking at in terms of how energy works. If you have the body, emotions, mind, spirit, energetically in layers actually of our energy field and of our awareness, the spiritual level is the deepest. So having those things that are supporting us physically, it is wonderful and it's part of it, but there's much more. So if you're building on a strong spiritual foundation, then you can go into places that many people have never gone. It's organic, meaning it feels very natural because the process of growth is natural. If we have an understanding of where we're wanting to go and how we can get to the next step, which most people don't. So we're talking, as I mentioned, about a much deeper understanding of holistic. And one of the things that I realized, we've been doing this for many years. So we started really doing a lot of healing work in the late 1980s and early 1990s. And what I realized doing what we teach in our programs, and also things like learning Reiki, energy healing, is that the journey is built right into us, which is interesting. It's all energetically we can perceive it in our chakra system, and as I was suggesting, in the energy field and in our awareness. We focus a lot on how we can understand those different aspects of our awareness, like a thought versus a feeling, or a spiritual perception versus something that is not coming at all from that spiritual part of ourselves. So it is, I think, to me, what it has done is it has created a very magical sense of life, that there's so much more than we understand. And when we can understand that the spiritual level is the deepest, then it can take us into places, like I mentioned, that we may not have been aware of, like understanding the purpose of life. We teach a lot of different techniques, but we also teach the big picture, like how can we understand our purpose? And for each of us, it is unique, but overall, our purpose in life is to live fully and grow. We want to get the most out of life, right? And we also want to evolve and grow in wonderful ways. We're here to expand. We're not here just to kind of settle in and and rest for the rest of our lives. Every part of us wants to feel fully alive. And when we're engaged in the life we were born to live, coming here with a purpose, with the soul coming with a plan, that's when we can get the most out of life. And of course, just at the foundation of it all is love. Philip mentioned Awakenings Institute briefly and how we want to create a more loving world. That's because love is our guiding force. Love is the thing that unites us, and unites us personally with who we truly are. So it's very exciting and energizing and experiential. You can actually feel in your body where there might be something blocked. And I wanted to just mention a few things that you can do right now, and we'll just take a moment. So one, just imagine a time when you have had difficulty expressing yourself, or a situation in which you do have difficulty expressing yourself, and how that feels. And no, it's interesting. You might notice a tightness in your throat, which is interesting. My throat just tightened right up. And so the body is like a mirror. Here's another one. Imagine or focus on a time when you have been hurt emotionally by another person, or maybe now when you feel hurt, when you think of how another person has behaved toward you, or the inhumanity of man towards man, or people towards people, meaning both men and women, how that affects us all. And if you might notice that you feel it in your heart, that you feel a heaviness or a tightness in your heart. It's the same, like if you have a hard time moving forward, you might notice you feel heavy trying to walk. Every part of us is like a metaphor. And it is when we can understand that, and when we can understand how to make use of that to go back to that place of feeling fully alive, it's really magical. If we have do we have a minute for me to share that dream? I was thinking of that slippery slope
Sure.
dream.
Yes, that's great.
Years ago, I had a dream about being at a crossroads. And it was so metaphorical. And to the left, there was a little path that went off to the side. And to the right, there was a big road where all the cars were speeding along. And I decided to take the one to the left, which was the road less traveled, you could say, obviously. And so I headed down that path, and I got to a hillside. And it happened, it was snowy there, and there were people they were throwing snowballs and stuff at each other on the hill and kind of playing around in the snow. And I wanted to get to the tops. Wanted to stay on the path. So I was trying to go up the hill and I kept sliding back. And I'd try again and again and again. I kept sliding back. And in the dream, I actually never was able to make it to the top. So with some of the techniques that we use, I decided that I would go back into the dream. So you can imagine yourself just going back into the dream and actually allowing it to play out more. So I was there on the slippery slope and I realized I had a heavy backpack that I was carrying. So I decided, well, maybe I could do better if I took the backpack off, or at least find out what's inside of it. So I took it off and opened it up, and it was full of just these like squirmy worms and heavy rocks and obvious things that I wouldn't want. But that's how we are sometimes. It's like we're carrying a lot of baggage around that's preventing us from moving forward effectively. And at that point, then I just put those down and I made it very quickly all the way to the top of the hill, to the place where I could see beyond there this magnificent valley, just green and lush and wonderful, that I was going into. And then kind of to top it off, which was very emotional for me, I realized also that I was not alone. I hadn't considered that I wasn't alone. And so I turned around and looked, and Philip was there. And I realized that I also was taking on burdens alone that I didn't have to take on alone. And I think that's another thing that we do commonly. And it is actually part of our teachings involve connecting with each other. So we know we're not alone, because we're not. But it's very easy in whatever pain we're experiencing to believe that we are. So there we were together, and we were poised to take a magical journey. And we've been on that magical journey ever since. So it's not just us either. We have actually several people here who are in our training or have been in our training. And I think that they would validate that there is something different about this, and that this can really help to change people's lives.
Right. So
I see V put up a heart.
yes,
Thank you.
people. So can we talk about the holistic approach in action?
Sure. And that's what we're here for, really, is to put it into action, to live with this.
Yes. So another kind of big picture view of what we're talking about here, of how you can use spiritual and coaching and healing for a lifetime, is integrating it into your both personal and professional life. And what this means is figuring out how to use both coaching and healing. And a lot of times there's we really think an artificial division where someone's learning coaching on the one hand or healing on the other hand. And there's really a combination where they both work together. I have a little diagram to help you here. It's kind
of. You could say you can't have one without the other, technically.
Yeah, there's sort of a yin yang here. The coaching is the masculine, the supporting people with goals and strategies. It's more action oriented, motivating people. And there is a lot of using your rational mind too. And the healing is the feminine, the visionary, nurturing and healing. It develops your intuition. It's more relational. So you want them both. And so in other words, if you're just being motivated and receiving learning coaching and you help people support them, that's great until they get stuck, because we're here on earth because we have a life plan, a soul plan on the one hand, and then we have karma and contracts and things blocking us on the other hand. So this is part of the whole reality. You need to work with both, because once you get stuck, then what do? Well, that's where the healing comes in and why they work so wonderfully well together. And it really answers basic questions when you study this and go in depth and more mastery. Who are you? You are a soul. Everyone has heard the I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And what does that mean? That means you have a purpose and a mission. So you want to find out about that, get clear on that. You also want to understand the territory, which means the spiritual stages. We teach about that. Where are you in your spiritual stages? Where are other people, so you can meet people where they are and know your next step. Have a roadmap also. We have a 7-part roadmap that we use for our 3 different coaching healing courses that combine for the program. And knowing what to do when you get stuck. And that's why we have used holistic EFT, a holistic version we've developed of emotional freedom techniques, spiritual kinesiology, which is a spiritual healing system we developed. And we've drawn from the best of things we've found and developed some of our own techniques, which work really well. And so now we want to go into those five core challenges that we all face, and how spiritual coaching and healing can really help. Jane, let's go to challenge number 1.
Okay. And this is a good one, and a very common one, when we decide that we want to change things. Say we wake up all of a sudden and we say, gosh, I need to do something different. And actually, this is what happened to me. I was an architect. We were spiritual. We had actually focused on spiritual things before. And Philip was an educator. I just got so, my work started losing its luster, you might say, like in a big way. And I felt like my soul was dying, like the energy in my body was just draining out. So I was very listless. And obviously I wanted to change, but the thing that I want to mention that is our first challenge is the thing that happens because there is no real roadmap for something like that. Actually, it's better. It's better now than it was at that time in the late 1980s. You can be dissatisfied, but you're confused about where to go next. So the first challenge is, what do you do with confusion? As I mentioned earlier, it's natural to want to get more out of life. You could say it's your birthright to get more out of life. And if you feel unclear, uncertain, confused, overwhelmed, all those things, you're not alone. It's like I call it a spiritual pandemic. It didn't go away along with the other pandemic in our country. And it takes a huge toll on people, because those kinds of experiences, that confusion, overwhelm, etc., also go against the truth of who we are as spiritual beings who are here. We came with a plan to realize dreams, to experience joy, and to bring meaning to our lives. And of course, to feel alive. The positive sign about that is that you are expanding. Confusion shows that you're expanding. So if you can look at that and understand kind of what that means and what the solution is, then it's a good place to be. What happens is, in most cases, people don't have a solution, so many of them just fall back into the safety of the life they know, for lack of anything better, or anything that they can feel safe with, you might say. Really, the solution at that stage is having a strategy. And that's what we're talking about here, is if you're growing spiritually and you're confused about how to take your next steps, if you want any of the things that Philip was talking about at the beginning, like a new career that has more meaning to you, etc., your own growth, all those things, you do have to have a strategy. And so for us, we decided we would study healing, which really worked well as a first stage. And healing was really where we started very strongly. We've always been fascinated by personal and spiritual growth, even from an early age before we met, and wanting to understand who we really are and what makes us tick, and all those big questions: who we are, why we're here, where we're going. Those were big motivators for us. So also another one, I think for me, I'm kind of a pragmatist and I want to know how to make things work, is what are the keys for accelerating your growth? So these are the kinds of things I wanted strategies for, and create a fulfilling life, one that has energy for me. So I wanted to share an exercise that kind of explains that whole thing about, and people have variations on it, that idea of the soul dying. It wasn't a religious thing for me. It just was what was happening. It was real. It was tangible. And I had to do something about it. So I just wanted to go through this exercise, and I was hoping, Benita, would you be willing to kind of go through it with me?
Sure.
And everybody, I would recommend that you do this too. And this is a very simple exercise on aliveness. So you could call it life force, life energy, chi. You know, we want to feel alive. We want to wake up in the morning and think, wow, it's great being alive. So where I wanted to start is, so Benita, if you maybe would say a few words about the life you're creating, the most exciting place that you could possibly be going with your life. Just a few words about what that is.
Being a better version of me, a more connected to spirit version, and then taking that to my clients and helping them achieve what they want for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And when you think about living that the way you are now, and also maybe even more, just continuing to go on the journey, being the best you can be, how alive does that make you feel?
Oh, like a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And so this is important. I mentioned aliveness is like the key. Imagine then if you decided, well, gee, I'm not sure, what would the neighbors think? Maybe I should just go back to doing something that's a little safer, and just so you kind of just withdraw and settle. You could say settle for maybe also what some other people in your life might be suggesting. And that's very common for people to say, well, that's crazy what you're thinking of doing. Nobody does that. If you imagine settling for a safer life that is not feeding you in that way, how alive does that make you feel, Benita?
You make me feel really bad right now talking about it. I mean, I'm like a 3.
Right.
Like
right.
my stomach's heavy. I just kind of
right.
slump.
Well, what I'm the important point here is that it becomes kind of like a choice of life or death. I mean, that was what it was for me. And I know Benita is on the life side. So you can go back to just focusing on what you are creating. And we'll go into actually a technique for one of the things that we do with this also. And that's where we want to be. If you focus on the path you're on now, again, Benita, how do you feel?
Much better.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because the forces of, you could say, the mass consciousness, the masses of humanity are not where we are. And they're trying to pull us back to, they say, this is safer over here. And yet it's not life, it's not living. So if your dream involves doing these kinds of things, coaching, healing, helping other people, learning more about what makes you tick, all those things. Mm-hmm. If that's what you want, however you do it, I think it is life or death. It is the thing to pursue. And it is being supported also. I would say that we are supported in pursuing these things because this is what we came for. So if you feel you're here for a reason, who knows what might be possible. Mm-hmm. So that's it. Finding a strategy to take you where you want to go rather than giving up. It's critical not to give up on your dreams.
Absolutely. So the next challenge for holistic, spiritually minded people in particular is going deeper beyond mainstream approaches. Although there are things in the mainstream we can use, most people who are spiritually minded realize it's limiting. It's not enough. And once you find things that are really deepening and boost your intuition, which again is something hard to develop, but finding the right spiritual coaching and healing will tremendously develop your intuition so you can find things outside the mainstream, beyond the rational. You being rational and grounded, but using more spiritually higher dimensional, higher vibrational approaches to your life to, as Jane was saying, feeling really fulfilled at a deeper level and moving forward. And for ourselves, just going back to our story, Jane and my story, we met in a Gurdjieff Ouspensky school years ago, a spiritual organization. And it was one of those organizations, sort of the classic model of follow the leader. And there's still, of course, many out there. And so it was the leader had the truth, was connected with, say, spirit and God or whatever. And he sort of translated it to us, quote, the student disciples. And we knew this was pretty limiting, but at a certain point we just said, wait a second, why can't we just do what he's doing? Why can't we just go straight to the source like him? Sort of like a traditional church where you have to go through a priest or a minister. Well, eventually we did leave the organization, and we learned some very profound esoteric things, which which we teach, and you can't find elsewhere. Some of the things were really great we learned in that Gurdjieff Ouspensky tradition. But that model we learned from, so we wanted to develop eventually a spiritual community, which we now have in the coaching healing program, where people are helping each other. There's not one above the other. And although we are teachers and have a lot of experience, we're not the source of truth for you. We help you empower yourself to get the truth within yourself. And after we left that Gurdjieff Ouspensky organization years ago, we had the good fortune synchronously to find a wonderful teacher mentor who taught us how to connect more deeply with our soul and the levels of healing, and some methods which we adopted and made our own. And that took us further, and we eventually studied more, started helping people individually, developed trainings, wrote a lot of books on spiritual growth and healing, getting through to your emotions with EFT and getting through to your soul. And the most recent one, The Loving Power of Your Soul, and did a lot of different training programs like this one. And I wanted to give you kind of a taste of it, another exercise, because we do like to be interactive and hands-on and embodying things. Although I think you can get some very good knowledge, some of it very hard to find here and in what we're training. But the experience is probably the most powerful thing. And one of the processes we do, we call the reset process. It's a very simple process, an energy healing process. And you tap the top of your head, kind of like good boy, good girl. But what you're doing really is integrating your left and right brain. And
I'm breathing.
And breathing, you breathe. And then the second part, there's only two parts of the tapping, is tapping your heart and breathing. And you can add
Buddy likes that part.
he likes tapping the heart. The dog's a very heart-centered dog there, Buddy. And and you can combine this, and you can mix and match different tools that work really well how you see fit. And we're going to mix this with what we call our miracle reframe affirmation, a special mantra we got 15 years ago, downloaded from the heavens or wherever. And it simply goes, anything is possible and miracles are happening now. And people all over the world have used this affirmation with EFT, and we teach it a little more in depth in the training, and remarkable results. It opens up possibilities. It opens up your mind from the blinders that we normally have on. So to combine it for the experience now, which will be very brief, is, and you might even think of something you want maybe more help on, more clarity. I want better health, better career, better relationships, whatever. And that you might feel that that might be a little twinge, because it's an area where probably you're looking for healing on and further growth in insight. So you can measure it between 1 and 10 how strong the if there's some kind of block on there. And then we'll do the reset process with the miracle reframe. So you just tap the top of your head, saying anything is possible. breathing.
Everything is possible.
And then you tap your heart, breathing again, and miracles are happening now.
And miracles are happening now.
For good measure, you can do one more round. Anything is
Anything
possible.
is possible.
And miracles are happening now.
And miracles are happening now.
And you just pause for a second and just reflect on your state, on the energy of your state, and maybe in relationship to what you were looking at, some area you'd like to improve. So it puts you in a better state, and everything is in the now. So if you can be in a better state now, that's great. That's the ultimate, really. And so that's a little simple thing to do. Some of the things are more complex and mix and match, but that gives you a taster there of helping you wake up and helping you clear so you get the truth in your heart, and combining this holistic coach and healing. So when you're in that state and you want to accomplish your goals or help people or get better, whatever, you're more able to do it. And this will help both personally in your everyday life and people you know around you, and professionally if you have a career in helping people, coaching, healing, or the like, or anything. If you're in a more anything is possible, miracles are happening now, I think you're going to be in a better position to enjoy your life and help yourself and others.
Mm-hmm.
So Jane, we go on to the third challenge that holistic spiritual people in particular have, and that is
Fear.
yeah.
And it is again, all of these things kind of come along with reaching into the unknown, having a dream and not knowing how it's going to happen, or maybe just having fears from childhood. I had a pretty tumultuous upbringing. My father was an alcoholic, and he was violent, not so much toward me as toward my mother, but also emotionally very violent. And it was difficult. So I grew up and I had a high level of fear and no way to deal with it, really. I had a fear of even expressing myself in minor ways. I couldn't really speak very much in front of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people. I would feel unsafe. So we can be afraid of many things, fear of making the wrong decision, fear of somebody harming us, and ultimately fear with something like this, fear of failure. And again, this is another cause for people to back off and say, well, this is just more than I can deal with. And yet, to me, what I realized finally is, and I think what we teach is, the challenges we face are actually part of the journey. In other words, the roadblocks, if you could say, point to areas where we need to expand and grow and to heal, to become the creative, soulful, amazing people who we really are, to just allow ourselves to blossom, to allow ourselves to be ourselves and not be afraid of being ourselves. Philip mentioned the importance of connecting with inner guidance and wisdom. And we actually, after leaving that spiritual organization, we spent a few years trying to find a reliable way of doing that. We were told a lot of different ones, like, well, you kind of breathe and you think about higher things and then you open up and there it is. But none of it was specific enough until we learned the key, which is really about where the truth lies, and it is in our hearts. And again, it points back to love. So like I said, everything is built right into it. When I started, I didn't feel that I could possibly be any good at healing, but I was just having such a good time, and the change was so refreshing from what I was experiencing as an architect, that I was just very excited about it. And then I started to realize, well, I can make a difference. Learning Reiki, when I realized that actually we can feel energy, we can support healing for others, that really changed things for me. And I found myself, like, then I started thinking, well, maybe I could do this. And that really changed and helped to lift a lot of the fear. I also realized when it comes right down to a lot of the things I was afraid of, most of them never happened. The things I was afraid of generally didn't happen, but the things that maybe I would think in retrospect should be fearful, when they happen in the moment, you don't have time to be afraid anyhow. So, so I thought, well, this is a waste of time. I also, excuse me, I also wanted to, with that in mind, share a very simple process we use for coaching people. That is, it helps to elevate your perspective, kind of like Philip was talking with the miracle reframe. It elevates your perspective, so those things that you felt were bothering you don't seem to bother you anymore, that you can integrate a different perspective on it. And one that we use very frequently is called the mud to mountaintop process, or apex healing. And I was hoping, Benita, you could join me in that too. Is that okay?
Sure, sounds good.
Wonderful, thanks. So this is a very simple process, and it is metaphorical. I can kind of share a little bit about that something within us understands this as something that works. And it works generally for almost everybody. So so just to begin, and I don't want to drag you down, but but if you kind of imagine yourself a little bit down in the dumps, we're starting, and you don't, any of you, you don't have to be like in the most horrible state ever, but just imagine, notice what it feels like if you're kind of wallowing around in the mud, not knowing where to go or what to do. Can you imagine that, Benita?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, for everybody, you might want to close your eyes and just notice how that feels when you're in that kind of a place. And so, where so many people are, and where society is wanting us to be, like, oh, these horrible things are happening, and so many things are out of your control, and it'll never change. And you find yourself feeling lower and lower and lower. And then just taking the opportunity to start to breathe, to focus on breathing. And another thing we do incorporate for those who are interested is to connect with the angels and beings of light above us, so we can, as we breathe, just be breathing in lighter energy. And feeling that throughout your body. And then just imagine you're becoming so light, you feel like you could start to lift out of that mud. Can you imagine that, Benita?
Yes.
And so you're rising out of the mud, and you're going to a beautiful, lofty mountaintop. Our students seem to say they prefer a mystical mountaintop, which is a really high up mountaintop with a 360-degree view of the world around. So as you rise up, it is natural, actually, in our awareness, if we imagine ourselves rising to a mountaintop, that our consciousness rises too. So we can rise up. It expands our perspective when we're on a mountaintop. So we can imagine landing there on the mountaintop and noticing the expansive view around you, the beauty of the world, the sun shining down. And how does that feel, Benita, being on the mountaintop?
It feels like another world, like all the bad stuff is down below and it's just nice and peaceful up here.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I know Benita has experienced this. She's experienced this before, has been in our whole program. And from this perspective, how do you feel about what's possible compared with when you're down there kind of wallowing around with the masses of humanity, you might say?
Whatever I want is possible. And I don't even know what all of those things are yet.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But there's no limit up here.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so how do you feel also about being able to resolve things for yourself, about being able to find your own truth in relation to what's right for you?
Well, the higher I go, the more truth there is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, it's always wonderful up here.
Right. Yeah. And this is something, it's a very simple thing that anybody can do anytime. And it's like, you could call it archetypal. In other words, it's something that I think our consciousness understands without us having to teach anything about it. We don't have to tell ourselves, well, now you're supposed to do this and feel that. We just, when we get to that place, and also looking out at an expansive view, when you look out at an expansive view, it expands your awareness. So
It's-
this is a place you can go to solve problems.
It's very pure up here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can breathe in the fresh air.
It's just a light energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's nothing that's in the way.
Right. Right. And the light shines down on you, the light from the sun, which is source energy. You can feel that flowing down over you. And just knowing also that you are such a wonderful, all of us, you're such a wonderful being. You're here with a purpose. You're connected with your creator. And here it's one of those places where anything might be possible. So we want to be in that place of possibility. We want to raise our awareness because we have that capacity within us to access truth and open to when you feel that. Do you feel that in your heart, Bonita?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, just open to your truth. And it's not like a hidden message. You hear in society all the time, follow your heart, but then when it comes to doing it, it's another thing. But it is like we need to be able to have tools to transcend the fears that hold us down, that prevent us from being able to raise our awareness to a place where we can really discover what's possible and explore different things, like why we're here, and all of those amazing things about ourselves. Anything else you'd like to add, Bonita?
No, it's just really nice up here. And I just want to make sure I stick it in my pocket. So when I I'll have it.
Right. Yeah, and I think the more you do this, the easier it is, and the more it's like, well, there's an idea in NLP called anchoring. You can just anchor a state, and it makes it easier to come back. Like I said, the more you do it, the better it gets, and you can feel that. I feel wonderful. That and the miracle reframe, and we're on our way. So, and that's just an example. It's a very simple thing we do, and we do many, many things, but this is a very effective one that I find I use it very, very frequently with clients. Almost everybody seems to get just a real wonderful experience from it. So thank you, Bonita. And we can, those who close your eyes, you can open your eyes and bring that mountaintop energy back with you and hold on to it. Breathe in that wonderful, lofty air. So that's the, what was that, number 3?
Number 3, that takes us to number 4, the challenge number 4, what it is and how to address it and overcome it with spiritual coaching and healing. Finding sources and training that go beyond superficial and give little results. Maybe many of you have taken programs we have that promised a lot and didn't deliver so much, and we took some that were $10,000 or more, and we got a few great nuggets from it, but we were wondering, hey, wait a second, where's the meat? Where's the essence of it? And sometimes there's dogma attached and agendas and things, and that really seems to limit how much you can get out of it. So we looked around over the years at different approaches. We studied holistic hypnotherapy, NLP, the EFT tapping. We developed some of our own techniques, including spiritual kinesiology, and put these together. And it does take some time to learn them and practice them. So there's one thing just to get kind of a general superficial idea, and we want to give you as much as we can in the short time we have today, but to really learn it and put it into your being and integrate it into your life, it does take a little bit of study and time and practice, and it's an enjoyable thing to do. But we keep adding and inventing and developing these techniques to help people go deeper and make it as easy as possible, as direct as possible, because we don't want to make it real complicated either. So you want to look at how things that are effective, things that are relatively accessible to you, where you can get trained by people who know what they're doing. And we've got some very good training along the way, as we've mentioned, and pieced it together so people can have what's called more soul development. So when you're connecting on the mountaintop, like Jane took us through, when you're living your life more with the heaven on earth, then things are different. The things that used to be maybe really bothersome, you might not like them anymore, but you look at them differently, and they often shift and transform because you're in a different place. So you're attracting different things into your life. And I just want to share what one of our graduates, as we mentioned, Bonita is a wonderful graduate. And you're within a community, a small community of people like this in the program. And this is a recent graduate, Daniela Ramirez. The Coach Healing Program is life-changing. I developed a powerful presence, intuition, and how to use my creative imagination, which is priceless to me. Philip and Jane are intuitive, intelligent teachers who have taught me the art of manifestation and greater purpose. Peace, joy, and clarity are my guides now. Thank you. I am eternally grateful. And it's wonderful to get that and just being in a place where you're empowering people, you're connecting them with their soul, you respect them and you connect with them regularly. And the idea is if you're in a situation where you can easily connect with people and learn these techniques and practice weekly, because we practice every week. We have a class on Tuesday and a practice lab on Thursday, and they're all recorded if you miss any. Then it starts to integrate. It starts to become your own, because we used to teach this years ago on weekends. And it was wonderful, but it was kind of an overload. So if you have a whole day or 2 days of doing
2
this,
days, right? We taught.
although you learn a lot, you can't really retain it. It's sort of an overflow. And this dosage, and people report back to us, and we have question and answer time for every class too, so you get all your questions answered. Learning in little dosages repeatedly, people have shown, their studies have shown that is really the best way to learn.
Right. Yeah, there are those intensive courses, like you can learn to be a coach, a life coach in 10 days or something, or
yeah.
2 weeks, and you go into class every day. As Philip suggested, the problem there is that you can't actually absorb it and make it part of your life. And that's where having those regular, you could say, well, the classes, regular exposure to the information and to the energy is really priceless.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of times when we had those weekends, they would be once a month, and it was wonderful, and people did really change. But there was a tendency, there would be the class that weekend, and then there would be like another month, and the students would come back and they'd be kind of back where they started from, back down in the dumps, and we'd kind of go up again. And it wasn't as effective as this is, because we come together usually 3 weeks out of the month, so everybody has a week of catching up with things, and potentially you can attend once or twice a week and then connect with each other. And it just, like Philip said, it made all the difference in the world in terms of the quality, I think, of the experience that our students had.
Right.
And have still.
Yes. Right. And that takes us to the fifth and final challenge that spiritual, holistic-minded people in particular face.
Right, and that's understanding the big picture, which I mentioned that briefly before. For me, at least, it's always been important. Like, who am I really? Why am I here? Where am I going? You know, how can I get where I want to go? And how can I do it in a way that works for me? Uh, there are many teachers out there and many quality teachers. There are some who believe that they know the way. It's kind of like there's one way and you do it the way that I did because this worked for me, so it would work the same way for you. We understand that that's not actually the way it is. We're all unique. We have unique upbringings. We have, if you go down or go back beyond that, we have our souls are vast, you know, many lifetimes, many places. And we just are uniquely different. So we have to, what we have to do as instructors is to be able to help people to connect with what's right for them. And it is really, that's why helping people to connect with their truth in their heart and follow their hearts is so important. Because to discover you're magnificent, you're a magnificent spiritual being. To discover what that is requires you to reach deep within yourself, not for someone to tell you, well, this is, you know, you're this kind of person and this is what you need to do. We have suggestions and we have, like Philip said, we have roadmaps, but they're not anything that stifles a person's uniqueness. We help people to embrace their uniqueness.
It enhances
And I
it.
think that that's part of, that's part of the magic of it, and recognizing whoever we are, and whether we're young or old and tall or short or male or female or whatever color we are or whatever background we have, whatever country we came from, all of it, it's all part of our magnificence.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no reason, whatever age you are, for instance, there's always room for more life.
Mm-hmm.
So having that understanding of the territory, we provide all kinds of tools. And it's not like a lot of coaching courses, for instance, will have a lot of tools, or healing courses. Like you can learn how to do this past life regression, you can learn age regression, you can learn how to open to your gifts, you can learn all of these different things. You can learn how to clear things, you can do tapping with EFT. There are many, many things. What's lacking a lot of times is that big picture. Like, where are you on your journey? Philip mentioned it, I mentioned it before too. Can tell where you are on your spiritual journey, and you can understand for yourself what your next step is. You can also understand that in relation to those you work with. We have a manifestation roadmap. We have a whole course that is focused around life purpose. Like, we're all here for a reason. We have a purpose, and understanding the characteristics that we have that relate to our purpose is really magical and wonderful.
Yeah. The life purpose course is incorporated in the whole program because there are 3 courses, and life purpose, manifestation, and heart and soul are the 3 courses.
Yeah. And part of it, along with all of that, you're embracing the truth of who you are, you're embracing your own power too. You don't have to give your power away to anyone. In fact, if there are teachers who are telling you that they know better than you are, you do who you are, I would question that. I think we can all benefit from having advice from other people and opinions from other people and observations from other people, but ultimately we know ourselves, and we have to feel in our heart that the path that we're on is the right path for ourselves, rather than giving that away to someone else, like we did in that one. When we started out, we were young, and I don't think we really believed it. Some people did. Part of it was that if you left, then you were dead. You know, it was one of those things. And we moved on because we were alive. And we all deserve to feel fully alive. So
So
that's the fifth point.
yeah. And so just in concluding here and looking at your next step, if you're watching this live or you're in replay here, the next step is the spiritual coaching and healing program beginning June 11th. And it embodies these 3 courses, and they're the 3 levels of self-development or development that we discovered by teaching this over the years, which is uh, discovering, realizing dream development, self-development, which is the next course. They're all working together. You can take the courses in any order. The heart and soul self-development, discovering your greatness, and we've been talking about that. And the purpose development, Jane mentioned that, making a difference to enjoy life to the fullest. And as I mentioned, the course begins June 11th. And Bonita was a recent graduate. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience of the program and how it worked for you?
Well, I
Yeah.
had taken several life coaching programs before, and I really wasn't a good coach, and I really didn't like it. Until I was drawn to this course, and it was a very synchronistic path through several different classes that got me here. And so this is a mock-up of my new brochure. And under coaching, I wrote, a holistic coach helps you find, understand, and break through blocks holding you back. Dialogue is not enough. Real tools bring real change. And that's what this course had. It had the real tools, because talking to somebody and holding their agenda, and if they don't achieve their goals, what are you going to do? But when you have real tools, you can shift that energy and change things for them and change things for yourself. And that's why this class was so amazing for me, because there's got to be more. There's got to be more. Well, I found it. I found more, and how I can move myself forward and how I can help my clients move forward. Now, I do a lot of other things as well, but it all goes together beautifully.
Right.
And it just gives me a big playground. There are so many ways to find where blocks are in this class, because you don't know what you got. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So you have coaching wheels, and you have checklists, and you have ways to find how old you were when this block happened. I mean, it's just amazing, all the tools that are available to change your life and change the life of people that you work with, if that's what you choose to do. But at least you
Right.
can change yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, to me, having the tools, if it was only for myself, I think we have probably saved thousands of dollars in medical bills, and certainly have had a quality of life that we never would have had if it hadn't been for all of the things that we've learned.
I like that. Thank you, Bonita. Real tools bring real change. And that was our dream for Awakenings Institute.
Yeah. And I wanted to thank Bonita also for volunteering.
Oh, my pleasure. I always love free healing.
Yeah, that's true. And we started off in Awakenings Institute, Jane and myself, about helping people dream that maybe people could have much more that is possible. You can go beyond the norms, beyond the conventional realities, as we've been talking about, and connecting in new ways to be in the world and be more excited and enriched and soul connected. And it's very rare to find a program, as I mentioned at the start, that teaches how to connect with your soul and get guidance. We talk to people all the time, and even people have meditated a long time, and they just don't.
Right, for years and decades.
They don't have guidance. They don't trust the guidance. They're very unclear, and they're scattered. And this program is helping you become very intuitive and very aware of your soul and its messages to you, and how it can help you and others in the world. And I wanted to mention too, as we're in wrapping up here, and the program starts very soon, June 11th, and you can still join the small group program. The profound benefits of the program, the spiritual coaching and healing certification, a more fulfilling life. And Jane mentioned you're going to save a lot in your own physical health problems. People have healed allergies, back problems, weight issues, fibromyalgia, and it goes on, because you're practicing on yourself, and some of these issues is what you're practicing here. You have a career enhancement, a new business if choosing, part or full-time, accelerated spiritual development, And you'll get all these, well, I like the way Bonita said, real tools for real change. And another invaluable part is the loving, supportive community. If you're around people regularly, it is a spiritual community. It's not one based on where
Right.
you have to follow the leader. It's where everyone is empowered and respecting each other. It's a beautiful, very hard to find community of in a small number of people, and you get to make relationships if you choose. A lot of people have had very deep relationships found in the program with their classmates,
Lifelong friendships.
and you'll practice and you'll get to know people sometimes better than you've gotten to know almost anyone in your life, or most people in your life for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And so the program, as I mentioned, begins soon, the Spiritual Coaching Healing Program, June 11th, the certification program. And if you're not there already, go to this URL. Here's what you do. You go to this URL, tinyurl.com/HOL-coach, tinyurl.com/HOL-coach. And you can call us directly here at the Institute, 805-934-1238. Or let me see if I can pull this up. You go to our website, and on our website, let's see if we're there. When you find out more about the program, which starts June 11th, it tells the 3 courses. At a certain point, what your next step is to talk to us. There's links here when you go through the page. There's a lot of information in the program. The 3 courses are here. And it says, click here to schedule a free strategy session. So go to the tinyurl.com/HOL-coach. In other words, this page, and you'll see a few buttons. Schedule here a free session with us, or a session, and basically you'll calendar it for yourself to talk with us. You'll find the best payment plan for you, and if you have any questions, we can answer them for you. So that's what you do. And who is this for? Just to review that, it's for people who want much deeper, more in-depth spiritual mastery and healing, holistic healing tools. And it's for some people who want to enhance their business, start a business, even the career, many careers, human relations, and teachers. We have people from all walks of life who take the course, teachers, realtors, lawyers. And you can use all this in your career and your professional growth as well, as a complement to and all your relationships with your friends and family too. So Jane, before we close, any parting message? We hope you join us. We invite you to join us because I think you'll really enjoy it. Jane?
Well, just wherever you go, remember about aliveness, the importance of aliveness and living fully. And just let that be your guide.
Right. I think letting yourself be more alive is one of the best things you could do for you, everyone you know in the world. So I hope you join us June 11th. Go to that page, the tinyurl.com HOL-coach, or call us at 805-934-1238 and talk about your questions, payment plans, the best way that this could work for you. I think it will be life-changing and a wonderful experience. So until next time, great being with you all.
Bye for now.